What's the first sign that a movie is going to be bad? If there are multiple trailers for a comedy movie, but they use the same joke in all of them. #, funny. Joe's awesome movie reviews.blogspot.com #, fun for the family. Plovis weekly Herald #, a great adventure. ABC morning news 59 voting. It's advertised as one of the best movies of the year. And it's late January. An exposition in which one character explains everything that's going on to another character that should already know what is going on. Selling points are focused on celebrity names and visual effects. The trailer is over the top. Directing credit goes to Alan Smithee. Not always the case, but when there are more than 3 writers, a movie tends to lack vision. It can occur due to rewrites. Not a Bomb podcast reviews movies that bombed financially or critically, and this is a subject often discussed if anyone is interested. Someone else put in the work to make the property popular in the first place, and the people in charge of making the movie put zero effort into making it look or feel like the property it's based in, relying on the name and special effects alone. You can tell the acting is awful even from the trailer. When the trailer already tells you the entire movie. It's a remake of something that didn't suck. When I want to get up to get some snacks 5 minutes into the movie but don't pause it because I feel like I'm probably not missing out on much. It stars Steven Seagal. What is a telltale sign that someone is a selfish person? Conversations don't feel like conversations. They are one-sided talks about what they want, their thoughts, their life, their priorities, etc. When you are able to slip a word in, your words are reused as transitions in their dialogue. No matter how you format your words, they all just add to the plot of their story. What you say and what you do are pawns in their game to be manipulated in a way that belittles your experiences, actions, opinions, and choices. Every bad thing you do to them is drama-worthy and #X200B. Every bad thing they do to you are details and should be moved on from, and why can't you just do that? You're so dramatic. Edit after 14K. I never thought that being soup voted would make me feel so sad. It's heartbreaking that so many people can relate to this. When every single bad thing that happens to another person gets spun around into their personal problem egg, I am really upset because my friend family members going through X. If they always talk about themselves. My ex was insanely selfish. Her dad gave her a 20K month allowance. Plus paid for her mortgage on a penthouse in NYC while she went to Yale. He paid her car plus insurance. She had zero need for cash. All bills are paid. He also gave her a credit card with I am assuming no limit. 'Cause we bought a car on a whim once. But I saw her steal $3 from a friend who was passed out. She'd steal panties from Walmart. She had a pile of cash in her bedroom. We once needed to pay for a delivery. IDK if it was bagels or pizza, but she refused to touch the pile of cash. I had to walk to my car to get cash. And when I tipped her $10 for waiting, my ex went ballistic, calling me a itch, a moron and queer. 'Cause why would you give a random porky itch $10 for $5 worth of food? We went to a celeb wedding. She found a way to take 4 gift baskets as opposed to the 2 we were supposed to get. Every guest got one. She also stole a $500 gift card to Victoria's Secret from the wedding. She's wicked greedy. They gladly take any favors you do for them, but when asked if they could reciprocate once, they get defensive and/or aggressive and act like you're the selfish one for daring to expect something in return. It doesn't make you a bad person to expect reciprocation in a relationship with someone else. Romantic or platonic. Relationships are give and take, and that makes them healthy. It's no entitlement to expect kindness if you give kindness. If you're the only one giving, you're being taken advantage of. Edit. As some people have pointed out, doing something kind with the expectation to gain something from it can be manipulative. I'm not talking about narcissism and manipulation. I'm talking about the natural give and take in our relationship. It is not manipulative to expect certain things out of a relationship, depending on what kind of relationship it is. The whole reason we make relationships is because they give us something, whether that be support, love, safety, or other advantages. It isn't a bad thing, it's a human thing. Typically, with give and take, if you notice a pattern of one person consistently taking without giving, the one taking is the problem, not the one giving. The kind of people who use this as a manipulation tactic aren't the ones who stick around in a relationship for years, doing favor-sand kind things without being asked to. They're more likely to do one favor and demand twice as much in return. Why do I know this? I've had these people in my life, which is what gave me the realization I commented above. They respond how worse their situation is when you're sharing your problems with them. No try for help or listening, just trying to draw attention on their side look of triumph. If you are in a group and there is one person that is constantly interrupting the middle of what you or anyone else is saying, generally to brag about themselves with a one-upper story, is generally a precursor to stop associating with them. I've met too many of them in my days, and they are more often than not happy to throw you under the bus whenever the opportunity arises. Cliché answer, but I have found the return the shopping cart test to be pretty accurate. It is such a small thing, but it does tell you if a person thinks small things like that matter. Littering. Doesn't think they're wrong in the slightest bit. They can't shoulder any bit of responsibility. What's the wildest dream you ever had? I dreamed that I was back in college, weeks away from graduating, only to suddenly get an email from a professor, whom I never met, saying that I had missed every single day of a class that I never knew I was enrolled in. I was in a blind panic trying to figure out what I had missed, and what I needed to do to pass, only to wake up, and eventually realize that I am already graduated and have a job. I was putting on deodorant and the deodorant turned me into a horse. I once dreamed I had to kill a dinosaur by cutting off the top of its skull and pour boiling gasoline onto its brain. Also, it was a cartoon dinosaur that looked like a giraffe. I remember that if I failed in killing this dinosaur, something really bad was going to happen, so it was super important. I used to work for Coca-Cola years ago. I absolutely hated it, terrible bosses, barely mediocre pay, etc. I quit there almost 20 years ago and have been with the same company since I left. Well, a few years ago I had a dream that I quit the company I am at and went back to work for Coke. I was miserable, same old rap as before. The dream was so real that when I woke I laid in bed and was convinced I had went back to work for Coke. I was legitimately depressed and sad for about 20 minutes until I realized it was just a dream. Had a dream where I was walking by an elementary school and heard banging. Looked at the school and a bunch of children and babies were banging on the windows with their looty hands. So I rush over to save them but realize my feathered. I look down and the grass is made of razor blades. I fall over and look up into the tree to see a bunch of babies and children hanging from nooses, struggling to breathe. Sailors, people working at sea. What's the most creepy or most amazing sight you witnessed? Oftentimes in the Navy, I'd stand on the fantail and watch the ocean. Once we had 100s, probably around 400 dolphins riding the carrier's wake. They followed us for 3 days. In the middle of the Pacific, it's so dark and there's so little light pollution, you can see reds, browns and faint blues of gas clouds in the starscape. Another time I was watching the water at night. They say it draws you in, and it really does. You look at this pitch black void, with only the wake-or turbulence of the water catching light, and intrusive thoughts of jumping in just naturally occur. It's mesmerizing, especially if you're alone. At night during one of these events I saw blue glowing water, what I now know was bioluminescent algae, and inside this rather massive patch of blue glowing water were squid, that appeared to be maybe 15 to 20 foot long. You could catch their outline by the light from the water. I stared at what was multiple squid passing by for minutes, what seemed like an eternity, and then the light started going away in the spot I was staring. There was still a lot of glowing water, we weren't headed out of it. But this patch gets darker and darker and darker until pitch black. A solid 15 seconds of intense curiosity. Suddenly a lot of turbulence and a whale surfaces. It had snatched up all the squid. The whale cocked to one side and looked at the ship, and our eyes met, I want to think. It studied the ship for a moment until just sinking back down until the glow of the water masked it completely. Giant spears plunging in and out of the sea. In the Gulf of Alaska, I have seen some hit. Boutone of the most terror-inspiring things I've seen are what can happen with some of the loose logs from the logging trade. Sometimes when a big log gets loose from a raft, it becomes partially waterlogged and floats small. End up. So you have this 4-foot diameter telephone pole in the sea, sticking up 40 feet into the air, no biggie. Shows up on radar, and easy to spot. Now, give that pole 20 years of floating around or so. It rots in such a way that it becomes sharpened to a perfect point by wind and waves, and looks keep menacing. Now, put it in a gale with 25-foot waves, 50 feet. Trough to peak. And it becomes a towering spike of death that shoots up from the sea every 15 to 20 minutes, out of nowhere, 60 feet into the air, only to plunge down into the dark depths waiting to skewer some unsuspecting boat in a few minutes when it thrusts out of the ocean again. It is a genuinely terrifying sight, rare, but not so rare that I haven't seen two in one season. It's like the spiked ick of Neptune looking for an opportunity to *UCK your hit up in a particularly terrifying way. The Northern Lights in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. We were anchored in a remote cove, so Thico agreed to turn off all the exterior lights. Just a crazy thing to see. Fresh out of college, I got a job in Cambridge, Massachusetts, or so they said, as an architect designing whatever. Ended up doing oil rigs. Beautiful morning, there were sharks going under the main platform like always, but there were 2 dead sharks. Next morning 3 new dead, then 4th next day. Then a steady 4 or 5 a day for a week or 2. They would float up under the see-through deck that looked much like a metal colander. Crew would have to punch them down so the current could catch them with a large pole. What made it really weird was they looked like they had heart attacks or died in their sleep, no marks or bites or anything. The guys on the rig had all kinds of theories. Then one morning while in a room that was completely submerged and had a beautiful view as we sat in a meeting, everyone got to see the reason the sharks were dying, like viewing it on a movie screen. This octopus had made itself a home between the base and the deck. A shark was swimming by in a cruising fashion, and we see these tentacles grab it right in front of the glass and snap it like a glow stick. The marine biologist smiled and said, "Octopus is literally doing that to entertain themselves, like because he can." The marine biologist lowered a dive camera and this octopus was huge. The crew would joke about it thereafter. People would smoke on the deck at night and people would say, "Don't let the octopus in." Seeing those tentacles was just insane for their length, and to think about how a shark is mostly muscle and the octopus would just snap them was kinda scary. In the pitch black of night, in the middle of the vast emptiness of the sea, you see the stars filling the heavens, and more shooting stars than you would expect streaking to the earth with their fiery tails. As your eye draws down to the water, you find that somehow the ocean is darker and emptier than the sky. Your eyes strain for a glimpse of anything, but ultimately you only catch glimpses of strange and mysterious creatures lively swimming just beneath the surface, occasionally peeking above the surface or triggering flashes of bioluminescence that disappear as suddenly as they appear.